Hello and welcome to episode 168 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
Oh, that's right, but more specifically, we are talking about Duskmourn Limited today. It is our on draft
Yes.
episode, so we are, all about the new set and how to play Limited, which, how to play what we have been doing and whether those
Yeah.
things have been working.
Whether it's more of a how to play or a how not to play, that's up to
we're
you.
we're
But
pretty good on the how not to plays, I think. Like maybe we should just
yeah.
change the title to that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Here's all the things that I'm doing wrong. Learn
yes,
from
yeah. I
me.
think that might be more accurate. But anyway, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
Okay, a few episodes ago, I introduced
Hmm.
you and our listeners to Cartwright Springs, which is a cool little brew. It's about like an hour-ish out of Ottawa, but it's kind of in the woods. It's like this big campground, and then they just have this kind of like tin building or like aluminum looking building where they brew beer, and then
Yeah,
just
and
like a little
they let kids brew beer too, or something.
yeah, the 6-year-old's beer was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I brought another one from them. I just bought everything they had, and I was like, we're gonna do all these on the show. And this one is a red. It's called Crème Caramel, which is like basically it's French for caramel cream, and they've changed caramel to caram ale. Um, so I think the pun works a little better in English than in French, but fine. Uh, And so, could probably a little creamy. The caramel is probably a reference to the malt they used, which is what kind of is the backbone
Right.
for
Oh, of
red
course.
ales.
Duh.
So,
Duh.
yeah, I'm excited. Let's try their red. I don't think this one was brewed by the 6-year-old. I think maybe an adult brewed this one,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
you
think
know,
the last beer we had was 6% because the 6-year-old made it, and this one's 5.1%. So I think,
oh, of course,
maybe,
yeah,
yeah, a 5-year-old, maybe a
5 years.
little bit, five and a little bit.
Yeah, five and a bit. Five and like a month and a little bit.
Anyway, whatever. Let's crack this beer open. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. Mm. We also have some magic news. Uh, Duskmourn Alchemy has dropped on Arena, and this is just another reminder to be very careful which like draft queue you're joining,
Yes.
because I haven't made that mistake, but it's a common mistake to accidentally join the alchemy queue when we were not trying to, because the word alchemy is at the very end of the title, and hey, nobody likes reading, right?
Yeah. They definitely do it on purpose. I
They
mean, to be fair, it's completely different artwork, but
Mhm.
um, I miraculously have not done it yet. So
I have not done it either. I did make a big PSA when I was streaming that day.
yeah.
Like, hey.
Oh, would have been hilarious if in that stream you made that mistake.
Oh, that would have been really dumb. Um, Also, talking about formats we don't play, historic anthologies are coming back to the Arena Store. Historic anthologies 1, 2, and 3. But the reason I want to talk about this is because this is one of the first, or I think this is the first time that they're bringing them back, but selling them this way, where they're doing the same thing that they're doing with the Brawl and historic decks, where like if you already own some of the cards, you don't have to pay for those cards. They like change the price depending on your account, which I like to see. I think this is a good way to sell things on Arena, and
Definitely the way it should be always.
yeah,
Yeah.
because before it was always kind of this awkward, like, oh, you if you have some of them already, or I guess you wouldn't with the anthologies, but like when they
Yeah,
would bring them
originally,
back,
that's the thing.
um,
Originally with the anthologies, they were all brand new.
mhm.
Now it's like, I think Thalia might have been in one of them, and now Thalia's been released in a standard set, so people might actually have Thalia, like that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
totally.
Um, so it just makes sense. They didn't have to worry about it the first time, but now they definitely do.
Hmm.
and people probably bought some of the first anthologies, the first time around, crafted some of them, but didn't buy the whole thing. So it just makes sense. That's how you should sell stuff on Arena.
Exactly. Yeah. It could also be the thing of like, you're like, I don't know if I want to get the whole anthology, so you buy like just the playset of the card you want, and they're like, oh, I kind of wish I actually bought the whole thing. Now you're
Yeah,
able to do that. You can do both and
right.
not feel bad.
There were times when I had like 8 copies of the same card, and I was like, "Ugh, Arena." But they are start slowly but surely starting to navigate through those
And
waters.
make it a bit easier to not have a million dresses
And
or
when I say
whatever.
8 copies of the same card, I don't even mean with different art. I mean literally the same art, but
Hmm.
a different set
Set
symbol.
symbol.
So
I know.
that was
It's
less than ideal.
super
I have
shitty.
so many Woe Striders, man. I have so many.
Mhm. The Magic World Championship is next weekend, October 25th to the 27th. And that's the 30th one. Holy crap. Um, that's pretty sweet. Um,
Awesome.
if you haven't ever watched Worlds this year, it's gonna be 115 players are battling for $1 million worth of prize. one
$100.
hundred dollars. No, I was gonna say 100 million. I was like, that's way too much.
No, I was like,
Um,
holy shit, I should take this career more seriously.
yeah. So they're fighting for $1 million in prizes, but everyone who goes gets $4,000. So obviously the prices are broken up by blah 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 your standings. They're also trying to obviously get the trophy, which is be have the title of Magic World Champions for the next year, and
The real
uh,
prize.
you get your face on a Magic card. That's the most
Hmm.
exciting thing.
Yeah.
Um, those,
Forget the $100 million. I want my
yeah,
face on a magic card.
yeah. Um, the most recent one is Nathan Storiers from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which doesn't see any play, but I'm
It's a good
excited.
little card,
It is
but
a
yeah,
good little card,
people
but
played it for a little while.
they did. Definitely this summer there's a heyday for it, but it's kind of gone now. And Jean Emmanuel Depras is getting his card in the spring
I'm excited
because
to see what
they
that one is.
it's always like the second set of the year that the card comes out
Yeah.
in. So be very exciting to see what that one's going to be. But if you would like, oh, sorry, there's also a thing that this year is the first year that we're doing the newly named Kai Buddha Player of the Year award. They usually have the Player of the Year, but sadly, Kai Buddha has gotten terminal cancer, and so they are making sure that he is forever stamped in Magic history, and they named an award after him. So this is the first year it's going to be named that. Um, and
Jeez,
so,
I didn't realize that.
oh, you didn't realize he had cancer.
I
That's why they did it.
hadn't heard
Yeah,
that, no.
yeah, that was announced like it was a while ago. It was at one of the pro tours.
Mhm.
Um, but anyway, so that's why they have decided now to change it because Kai Buddha had like the best year in Magic ever.
Yeah.
He like won every pro tour basically.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but yeah, if you would like to qualify for the World Championship, the qualifier weekend is this weekend. So you can play in an event that qualifies you for the qualifier, that qualifies you for the Arena Championship, that qualifies you for the Pro Tour, that then qualifies you for the World Championship.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, super easy. All right, Jeff. Well, enough of that. Let's get into Duskmourn draft.
Let's do
Uh,
it.
so, like I said last week, I jumped into this set a little bit later than I normally do. I just started playing it last week, so I didn't have my like kind of initial. I didn't get like the same like rush of like everyone's trying to figure things out. It kind of felt like when I started, people already had some of the things going, and I was a little behind.
It happens
Um,
so fast.
happened so fast, man. Just with like magic on the internet and everything, and the amalgamation of all the people talking at the same time and figuring things out. It just goes like within a couple days, it feels like people have like
Oh yeah. And
exactly what they're
just the
thinking.
sheer number of games that get played, on day one. It's
Insane.
crazy.
Um, but I just want to ask how you doing? How's draft going with you?
It's going. Uh I'm doing okay. Like normally I expect to start a little hotter than this because sort of like your rank decay, you're
Hmm.
fighting through the usually the lower ranks, kind of get to figure the format out there, and then you know, hopefully you've figured it out by the time you hit the diamonds or the even platinums. That's not
Yes.
what's going on. It's not what's going on. I don't have it figured out, and like I'm doing okay. Truth be
This.
told, I have a lot of like 4-win type
Okay.
runs.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really bombing anything, but I think I only have one trophy. And so it feels bad. But then when I like look at my win rate, it's like, all right, it's 62%. It's not
I mean,
terrible, but I don't
that's.
love it.
I feel like that's pretty good because my win rate is like so all over the place. It's either like this deck, we did it, we built the deck and it's good, or wow,
Yeah,
that was terrible. What are you doing? Um,
right.
and that's been happening a lot.
I'm having the exact opposite. Everything's just like a 4 and 3 deck,
Hmm.
no matter what I try.
Well, you should just open more rares, honestly.
Well, that my one 7-win run just had, I think I posted on the Discord, it just had a crap ton of rares in it.
Yeah, I
High quality rares too.
yeah, this set. I mean, like since play boosters, we've had just a mass amounts of rares and uncommons and everything. So like your decks that like need those cards are easier to build. Um, there are
Yeah, the
some
sheer number of
archetypes.
uncommons is really hitting me in this one
That's
because I feel like that wasn't the case for Thunder Junction, or it feels like more extreme for
uh,
whatever reason. Maybe it's
I,
just the uncommons that exist. I'm not sure, but
I think it's the uncommons that exist. I think that the rares really outshadowed the uncommons in Thunder Junction, and here there's some really good uncommons.
yeah.
And you often get packs which is like two rares, five uncommons, and then the rest are just commons. But you're just like, damn, you're looking at stuff, you're like, holy crap. Like these cards are just really strong. There's a lot of good like blue uncommons as well. That will like drag you into it. I was talking about bottomless pools last week, but um, there's a bunch of great stuff like that that really just pull you there. And so I had felt like I was playing a lot of blue decks early on in the format, but then kind of looking at what decks were doing well, I was constantly in my mind like because I didn't want to look at 17 lands until we got to this episode. I wanted to wait.
Yeah.
Um,
Same. I always love to do that. Have this episode be the one where I realize what I got right and what I got very wrong.
totally. Uh, so I was kind of leaning into blue often. That was kind of the thing I was like looking for. But then as I'm kind of going back and looking at stuff, I was like, oh, I think that I was staying away from red a little bit too much because basically, I don't know if it was just inherently in my mind. I was like, I don't feel like I'm getting run over by red decks.
Right.
Like it just feels like most of the time when I'm dealing with something frustrating, it's like just like card advantage stuff or there's value engines that I can't deal with, and games are going longer than. It's not like the Boros aggro things. I don't know if that's just because it came in a little bit later and people had already corrected around that, but um, yeah. So I still have some things to work out, but looking at the 17 lands data, if you don't know what 17 lands is, it's a website that takes a bunch of information from all of the players who are playing and letting it track their winnings, and it helps us figure out exactly what the winningest archetypes are and cards are.
Yeah.
So
It's been a little while, so it's probably worth giving the usual like
spiel,
asterisks around
yeah.
17 lands. So the most important one is that it's opt-in. So
Hmm.
in order to have your data go to 17 lands, you have to sign up on their website and let them like link to your account so they can track what you're doing. And so the players who are willing to do that, A, know it exists,
Hmm.
and B, are like, you know, play enough that they are willing to go in and use this resource. And so they tend to be stronger players. And so
Hmm.
if this doesn't totally line up with what you're seeing in maybe some of the lower, like sub diamond kind of divisions, that could be one reason. The other thing you're going to see later is that like every deck has a positive win rate. that's
Hmm.
because it's only tracking these stronger players. It's not tracking all of Arena, where of course, if you
Exactly.
track all of Arena, it's not possible for every deck to have a positive win rate.
Hmm.
Um, but it just means like it's overall, I think, a good thing because the data tends to not get skewed by like people who don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, so it makes it a little more trustworthy in my eyes, but it is definitely there's something we call selection bias
Hmm.
in the statistics world, and this one has pretty strong selection bias going on that
It
all of these are geared towards like higher level play.
Yes. Um, but it's a fun thing to look at. And if you have listened to our pregame episodes, we've started to do the Pack Zero Pick One challenge, which isn't culminating at this moment. We will look at it again later, but it's fun to check in on it to see where we picked like the best common of every color, and then as well as a couple other ones, and then the what we thought the best gold uncommon was going to be. Um,
I made a
and
big bet in that challenge, and I do
mhm.
not think it's paying off.
It is not. I'm currently winning, and I feel great about it. So that's super sweet. Anyway, Jeff, let's get into this. We have 10 archetypes to talk about. We don't need to go too crazy into everything, but just generally what we're looking at. Though I do think, as we're talking about all the two color combinations, this set is you can definitely play three colors fairly easily. There's a lot of good
Yeah,
fixing with like the rare lands as well as the common lands are all like really helpful. There's like some good mana dorks and things like that. So
I have a
definitely,
Sultai deck going right now.
mhm,
1 and
yeah.
0, baby.
Sultai, Teamer, Jund, those are all big possibilities. Bant even. Um, but obviously green based stuff. Though I haven't seen like five color soup decks, which is really nice. I very much like that kind of draft format where it's not like Kaldheim where it was like you're either two colors or five colors. Um,
Yeah.
where it really kind of felt like that. Ultimately, like Sultai was the best in that format, but sometimes when the fixing is so good, it's just like we'll just get all the fixing and play every color and all the best cards.
Yeah.
And
Which can be fun for like a draft or two, but when it
mm,
becomes the default, I find it less fun
yeah,
personally.
well, because then you're spending your first picks on lands, like common lands,
Yeah.
that like is less fun. You're like, oh, okay, I want this land, and
Yeah.
there's a bit of it that I kind of liked, and I was excited for it to be a thing. But when it's like five color soup or aggro, like, and that's the format, it's like this is not my favorite. And luckily, this format isn't like that, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, the way I've been trying to use, or the way that like three color has naturally showed up for me,
Hmm.
is sort of, you know, similar to what you were talking about earlier. So you mentioned that you were avoiding red, and you weren't seeing the aggro side. Red traditionally is an
Hmm.
aggro deck, or all of them pretty much. And I personally would have been avoiding black. I've found black to be underwhelming. But these three color decks are where like black and red still have some pretty good cards out there.
Hmm.
And if you can get like the fixing, which is pretty easy to do, I often find that's how it shows up is like I'm blue green with a little black because I got some good black cards because black tends to be open,
Hmm.
but I don't like black that much, so I don't want to like commit to black really. And that's easy enough to do in this set, or you'd be like black green, but you want some blue cards to help power you up a little bit, like that kind of thing. Um, Given that that's easy enough to do in this format, that's how it's been manifesting for me. Is that's how it's been manifest dreading
Hmm.
for me is usually black or usually black is involved if I'm three colors because I'm
Hmm.
like trying to juice up the deck a little bit. Whereas if I'm like Azorius or something, I don't want to mess that up with the uncertainty involved in the three color decks because like I'm kind of in the archetype I want to be in.
Totally. Yeah,
I
it,
also know you were saying you weren't getting steamrolled by Boros, but I've liked Boros. And the whole time I was like, is Boros good or is this just the like Boros is always kind of good in draft? And I also like it more than I should. So I was
Hmm.
that was like part of my inner debate was like, is Boros just some of the uncommons are like really good.
Yeah,
Uh, and white
like
is just so good. So
yeah, it was just so funny. I think I'm currently in my I think I need to stay away from black phase as I'm like literally yesterday and today I started to switch into that
yeah.
because I was realizing like, I feel like I'm taking like the black cards I think that are good and I'm just like not winning with them. Or the decks that like happen to do it. It's like, oh, they're propped up by a ton of blue cards or something. And I have some black bombs, but like ultimately most of the deck is a different color. Um,
I think we
but
talked about it beforehand. Like black is going to be good if murder is good, and black is
mhm,
going to be bad if murder is bad, kind of thing. And murder is like, okay, I think murder is just fine. It's still one of the better black
it
commons.
is.
You're happy to play it,
Mhm.
but it's not the exciting, oh, murder, I should go into black that
It's
it is in
true.
some formats.
It's also just because like we have some good like green is a good color, but they have multiple ways of getting creatures back out of their graveyard. You have under the skin, you
Yeah.
have say its name. Um,
You
and
don't want
so
to murder a manifest dread like
you
creature, you know.
you
It's
don't want
rough.
to yeah, you don't want to murder a manifest red creature or like there's just so many ways for them to kind of like value to get it back or um
Yeah.
there's like two really big there's three reanimation spells I think. One is the cocoon one in white and then there's like live or die and that Valgavoth's servant thing. So it's just
Yeah.
like
And there are enchanted creatures that like come back as enchantments. And like, oh, I
and stuff like
actively
that.
don't want to murder that.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna
Um
be harder to deal with.
So there's a lot of those kinds of things, or it's like, sweet, you murdered their like overlord, but like it did get value on the way in. So like
Or sometimes
it's
it's an enchantment creature, and I'm like, oh, this gives them delirium.
yeah,
Like the exile one is way better, I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that one is good in specific decks because it does ask you to sacrifice an art or creature enchantment to play it. What, Final Vengeance
Or
or
you
whatever
or
that's
you can
called.
pay 5, I think. Can't you?
I don't think so.
I'm thinking of the
For
other.
there's a red card that cares about that, but no, Final Vengeance is just you have to sacrifice a creature or enchantment,
Okay.
or you can't
I'm
cast it.
thinking of like usually when they make this card, you're
Hmm.
allowed to pay 5 for it.
Yeah, not this time. Um,
Oh, you can also sack an enchantment. That's what it was.
yes,
Right. Okay.
yeah. So you can sack one of your like rooms that you don't care about anymore, or a
Yeah.
glimmer or something like that. But I guess
Yeah.
a
It's
glimmer is also a
generally
creature.
not been
But
that hard. It's not been as hard to cast this card as I thought it would be. And the exile matters a lot.
it matters a lot because some of the best decks are all the like graveyard decks.
Mhm.
Um, So we can start getting into the stuff. I know I'm literally kind of saying the exact opposite of that as we start to look at these numbers. But there are two decks that on 17 lands are tied for the winningest. And when I'm saying winningest, I'm talking about game in hand win rate. That's what everyone kind of goes by when they're looking at cards that they care about or archetypes and things. So if you're looking, there's a million different numbers in 17 lands. Like that website is packed full of data, and it's really hard to parse. So do what we do and just start with game in hand win right. Just click on that and it will show you that information, those things.
Yeah. That's for cards though. For like the archetypes, it is just
Sorry.
a win percentage.
Sorry, you're right, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
I was talking about cards and my brain was still over there.
Yeah.
But that's still to say that there's a lot of like colors with splashes, without splashes, and depending on what they expect a splash to be. Luckily, we don't have any of the like hybrid colored creatures in the set because that 17 lands gets kind of confused by that sometimes about whether
Yeah.
like, oh, is this actually a splash or not? So they can be when we're saying exact numbers, there's like a little bit of wiggle room in there. But anyway, all that is a caveat or a caveat. That's a disclaimer to say that there are two decks tied for the winningest, which is 57.5% for both white, blue, and red, white,
Yeah.
which surprised me a little bit.
Red
Um,
white is always here. It's
it's
always up there when we do this
I
this episode.
know, I know. I just like feel like I don't see like white blue I was expecting. Red white I just The only times I feel like I see red white is that like I'm playing a delirium deck and I play the like artifact beastie on turn one that can't attack or block, and they
Of
play the
course.
fucking veteran survivor. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's the
every
only
time.
scenario where veteran survivor is a good card. Every other scenario, that card's not good. But if
Yeah.
you are playing against a 3/3 that can't block, but any other card I play, I can block it and it's fine, and it can't eat my
Yeah.
graveyard. But it's literally just it keeps happening to me, and that's why I'm getting so mad because literally last week I was talking about how annoying I like how frustrating I thought Veteran Survivor ended up being like not a good card, and now I continually play against it where it's actually one of their best cards, and I'm like, son
Just keep
of a
losing to it.
bitch.
Yeah. I'm the other guy. I'm the
Hmm.
guy that gets my veteran survivor on the play on turn one, and then my opponent like passes or plays something that just can't block it, and I'm like, this card is so good. Why are people saying it's not good?
I just think like I was like excited for Survivor stuff coming into this, but we chatted about this a little bit last week, but like and you can look at the win rates and stuff, and that I guess this is kind of a spoiler alert, but like the survivor cards just weren't doing it for me. And
Hmm.
the cards that were actually good in white is like that fucking escort that like the 2/4 that attacks and gives something indestructible on +1.
Yeah.
Um, and that becomes really frustrating. And that card feels more survivory than all the other ones because it's
Oh,
like
for sure.
you are constantly like it goes well with survivor cards, but
It's making things survive.
it's true. But like it's always just this annoying attack of like, oh my God, I have to deal with this stupid thing that's attacking me, but also I have to block this 2/4, but like I don't have the creatures or the power to get rid of it in a like reasonable way. Um
See, that's the part of Survivor I actually liked and was hoping
mhm.
Survivor would kind of be is the
Yeah,
whole, oh, they're making this attack for the Survivor
thing.
aspect of it, but it hides combat tricks so well, right? Like because
It's
like oh, they're
true.
just making this attack to get their tapped creature, whatever, whatever, and then you just get blown out by some combat trick. That's kind of what I had in my head of what
Mhm.
Survivor was going to be is this like, do they have it? Don't they have it? Oh, it's all about combat. It's all about getting things in there. And for the most part, it's not really been like that.
No, well, because like
Um,
also the combat tricks are like what's like the best combat trick in white, or like really the only one is jump scare, which is a really good
yeah,
card,
jump
but
jump scare is good, but
it's primarily like that feels very much like a defensive combat trick to me because like I often see it played where like I think I'm attacking for lethal in the air and then they jump scare me and eat my creature and I didn't know that that was going to happen, or
yeah,
they go in.
or it's like I want to get my survivor attack in. I give it flying pre-combat. It's
Mhm.
very rare that it's post blocks
Exactly.
on offense that you play jump scare.
Just because it gives it flying, and it's a really good card, it just doesn't. Whenever I'm getting into combat, I'm never really worried about a combat trick. I'm just worried about them blowing up one of my creatures if I double block or something like that. The
Yeah, I think that
only,
was one of the big misses on this set is they should have had more combat tricks to play with the survivor mechanic in that like, oh,
yeah,
you're gonna block because I'm just attacking my 2/4 to trigger the survivor, and then
yeah,
bang, gotcha.
yeah. And so it just kind of makes it seem like a lot of the survivor cards just like aren't really worth doing. I know we're kind of jumping. This is kind of a
Yeah, let's punt the survivor discussion because I have more to say about it actually.
okay.
It was one of the bigger surprises for me. So,
Oh, jump scares.
uh, yeah, it was a jump scare to see that win rate.
Hmm.
Um, but let's start with the best deck, which I think I figured this out, or like had a suspicion, I guess is a better way to put it,
Hmm.
very, very quickly, because one of the first decks I drafted was Azorius,
Hmm.
and I thought it was a really bad version of Azorius. I think there were like three people at the table taking the same cards, and I made some suboptimal choices looking back, and the deck still went like 5-3 or whatever. And I was kind of like, I have like no rares. I have a lot of what I originally thought were like mediocre commons. I think they might be less mediocre than I thought. Like this, usually if you draft a deck poorly and you don't have rare support and you
Hmm.
still like it's not just that I went 5 wins, it's like the deck was chugging along. Like the deck felt like it was better it was just doing better things than what the opponents were doing. And so I got a feel very quickly where I was like, is Azorius the contender for best deck? Because like if that pile of crap could kind of steamroll people, it feels like this archetype is just good.
I mean, like Gremlin Tamer is brutal. Like that is an issue in itself. And there's like
Yeah,
a
I didn't even
ton.
have one of those. That's the thing, right? Like I just didn't have that stuff, and I'm still rolling over people. And I trusted LSV. This is something I want to complain
Mhm.
about.
Okay.
I don't know if you like this card, but in this first draft that I ever did, I hated this card and I hated that I picked like two of them. But it's Duskmourn's Domination.
What is that
It's
card?
the control magic.
Oh, yes.
His ratings were like really high for it, and I was like, okay, but fine, I'll try it. And I immediately hated it. And I was like, this card is not good, and I'm never taking it again. Um,
That's so interesting because like
it might be an
I'm
overcorrection, but
I think it might be an overcorrection. I think multiples is bad. You really just want one. Um,
I, I don't even know if I want one. Like, I just think there are so many better blue cards. I think that's mostly what it's about. Like, and
true.
especially if you're an Azorius, because I think white is really strong as well. Um, it just feels like this isn't going to make the cut a lot of the time because it's so clunky and situational when you just don't need to be doing that. Like,
It like I do find myself in situations where like I need both a removal spell and a blocker, and so it is nice to have this card that's like it doesn't do the I steal your creature, now I'm beating your face with it, because it makes the creature like not have a good power and lose all abilities. The lose all abilities thing is the one I always forget. I'm like, well,
I know. And I'm like,
at least I could still do like attack and do stuff. But if you're able to like steal whatever the biggest thing is, or a huge blocker that you can't attack into, and then it's just sitting back to block for you, it can be nice. But I do agree that like it's not nearly as good as these cards usually are. So it's you're just definitely kind of like in a
I think
weird
part of it
place.
is like the blue decks that are good are not the ones that really want this. Like blue black
Gotcha.
control,
Hmm.
maybe you can,
Wants it, but
that's where
it's
control magic typically would shine. But
mhm.
spoiler, blue black
That deck
control
is
is
not
not
doing
where you want
super
to be.
well. Um,
Um,
but yeah, we were both super right. Trapped in the Screen is amazing. Like this set has a ton of
yeah,
really good removal. This is one of the best ones, uh, if not the best one. And because there's just a like we were saying before, there are a ton of rares that you have to deal with. That like all the overlords, it gets rid of all like the enduring enchantments. Any big
yeah,
reanimated thing, like you can deal with a bunch of demons. Like you can do all the stuff, and
yeah.
it's
Trapped in the Screen was obviously going to be very good.
yeah, it
Glad to see that it is indeed
obviously
the
is.
best white common.
I,
Um,
I, I
Real
well,
quick though, what have you? I feel like I took the spotlight there. How have you felt about white blue Eerie?
I do like this like eerie enchantress deck. I already like white blue enchantress
It's
decks
like
in general.
Azorius enchantments. I just assumed you were on board with this, but
Yes. And so this is the first trophy I had in the format was playing this deck, and I was like sick. I like really love this. But now I feel like it's really hard to draft because people are all over it. And the deck is easier to put together because it really is kind of like enchantments and cards that say eerie, and they can kind of just go together.
it's a little bit draft on rails.
As
Yeah,
opposed to some of the other decks that I think are all really powerful, um, that are a little bit more tricky to put together. The one thing I will say about like, I think I might have had like a little bit of a blinder when I was playing this like the Zorius deck I had that like trophied right away in the format because I had a ghost vacuum, and so I was spending so much time being like, wow, this ghost vacuum is amazing. I could put this in any deck. And I just thought that Ghost Vacuum, I mean, Ghost Vacuum is still phenomenal. And like,
very
you
good limited
love
card.
that
Yeah,
card. But I was not realizing the other power of my deck. I was just kind of like, well, Ghost
right.
Vacuum's amazing. And that's why I'm winning, is what it kind of
Hmm.
felt like. Um, Even though obviously it wasn't. Um, but I attributed some of the matches where I'm like, well, I'm playing against Delirium. They can't do anything. My Ghost Vacuum eats
Yeah. Oh,
everything. Like there's
cooked.
nothing you can do. Oh, I don't even care. Like obviously my deck was already just exiling all their creatures, but like I could do the murder eat it with the Ghost Vacuum. Like that's what murder needs. It needs a Ghost Vacuum on the side
Yeah,
to suck up all
exactly.
the
If you have ghost
remains.
vacuum, murder's great.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but no, so that was a little bit. I think that might have overshadowed white originally. So then I was just thinking. Then I was kind of going to a bunch of blue decks and having like falling around between like really wanting to play blue black but doing badly, but being like I know it could be good, and I think I
Yeah.
got stuck in that rut for a little bit.
You did send a pretty sweet blue black list in the
I
Discord
did.
channel.
I almost trophied with a blue black
The
deck.
fact that that didn't even trophy was like, maybe blue black's not really where you want to be.
Well, the thing was that the blue black, okay, so this is a little bit of a tangent. We're not even talking about blue black right now, but the
Yeah.
deck that I had built that was blue black was really weird. I first pack one pick one enduring tenacity, which is
Mhm.
the black enduring creature that isn't really good actually. Um, you
Not
have
unlimited. It's
not
like a
unlimited.
kind of a specific, it's like a constructed card for a bad constructed deck. Yeah.
Yes. So it just has like whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And I was like, I was on stream, so I was like, this could just be fun. And so I proceeded to take just any card that said lifelink or gain life afterwards that I could. And I thought I was going to be black white, but I ended up being black blue. But I also found another enduring tenacity in the draft, as well as dissection tools, which dissection tools is a house. That card, I know I'm just talking about artifacts that are really good, but like that's a really good artifact.
Yeah, I had dissection tools in one of my drafts, and I had to read the card like three times while I was drafting. It's like,
It's so
how
good.
good this isn't this card just amazing?
It's
Am I
bonkers.
missing something?
It's especially
Um,
bonkers when you have two tenacities out and you attack with like an 8 power creature. And so even
yeah,
if they block, they're just
they're
dead. Just
just
like
dead. They're
you
just dead.
block, you still take 16 damage. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It literally does not matter what you
Yeah,
choose to do.
like the game's over already. So that deck was really fun, but I ended up losing
You
the
also
final
had Meat
match.
Hook Massacre, didn't you?
I had Meat Hook Massacre 2, yeah,
Yeah.
which only played a part in one of the games, I think. But my life total was so high, like I was in the like 40s or 50s some
Yeah.
games, and I'm just like, for whatever reason, I couldn't get in there because I didn't have my tenacities.
Mm.
So I was just like, okay, Meat Hook Massacre. I'm just attacking and I'm trading for just give me all your creatures because you can't keep them, and then I get them, and then I'll pay for all my creatures that are dying to keep them. And I'm just like, how many blockers can you put out? I'm going to take all of them, which strangely took a lot longer than I thought to win. So then I was like, huh, Meat
Yeah.
Hook Massacre 2, not really that great. Um, but it was a lot of fun. And so that also like it wasn't your average blue black deck. So now it's weird to think like, oh, blue black is good. It's like, no, you're playing a really dumb, weird deck
Yeah.
that
That's
is
only
not.
gonna happen once
Mhm.
in your entire time
It's
playing
like
this
not
format.
really going to happen again.
Which
So
those are the drafts that you love and stick with you. It's like part of the reason you do it, but
exactly.
also you shouldn't really let it skew your because there's definitely that bias where you're like, I could make that happen again. For sure I
Hmm.
could. You're like, no, you really can't though. You needed a lot of specific rares.
Yeah, you needed people to pass you rares to do this. Um,
Yeah.
and I think ultimately, even though the deck was really fun, you should not pack one, pick one in enduring tenacity. You should just. This is me
Yeah.
telling you that I did it for the lols, and it ended
Yeah.
up going out very well. But
And that's often how these things start too, where you're just like, I'll just take this weird rare and see if it's possible to build
mhm,
around it. It's possible, but not advisable or easy to do.
yeah,
Um, let's push us back on track a little bit here.
that sounds good.
So Azorius, I don't think either of us were too surprised. You were saying, maybe some rares overshadowed your own
Hmm.
feelings of the power of Azorius, but I was mostly surprised that Boros was so close. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would have had Boros second. I think Boros was good. I was like, people don't really play it. I think it's one of those decks where in this format, if you get the Boros deck, like you get the nuts,
Hmm.
but you often just don't end up in it. Like you start taking white cards and maybe speculate a few red and then you end up somewhere else. But when you do get the stuff, the stars do align, you just start steamrolling people. And so
Hmm.
that could be part of the win rate here. It's also just like Boros is literally always good when we do this show a few weeks into the format.
Hmm.
Like I don't know why, but we didn't do it for the last set, I suppose, but based on what I'm seeing in standard, it feels like Boros was good in that set too. So,
It was
uh,
it was pretty good. Yeah. It wasn't like the best thing to do right off the
yeah, I
bat, but it was still one of the good
feel
ones.
like that's classic Boros Limited, is it's like
Hmm.
the third best deck usually.
Yeah, I was guessing it was going to be like the fourth best deck when we were
Yeah.
looking at this. I was like, and I do think that these numbers are driving down too.
Okay.
Um,
So
like
maybe started at number one and is starting to
I didn't
lose some of that
see
steam.
that, but I'm guessing that
Yeah.
that's probably what's happening because I feel like some of these next decks are on the rise. Like they're
Yeah.
going to start once people start being like, this card I need for this deck, and this card I need, and all that stuff, and the pieces are much clearer because the decks are a little bit more difficult to put together. They will
Yeah.
start to be what everyone's trying to do.
I think I mostly had this top four. We'll talk a little bit about, my big miss later. I
Hmm.
mostly had these decks in the top half for sure, and white blue at the top. Other than that, I think the order is completely different than what I had
Yeah.
in my head. So I don't have too much to say about Boros. Boros is Boros.
Hmm.
This win rate surprises me. We talked about it earlier. All these decks have positive win rates or above 50%. The actual win rates don't really matter. Don't read too much into that. It's all
Hmm.
relative. So one takeaway that I did want to mention is that um, the best deck here, white blue, is a 57 versus the worst deck at a 51 and a half. So, 6 point spread. That means like it's fairly balanced.
Hmm.
We've had a few formats semi recently where the best deck's up into the 60s.
And the worst deck is in
Um,
like the 48s or something.
yeah, like I think there was that one, what format was it where they actually went below 50 on 17 lands? I was like, damn, I've never seen that happen. That's a bad deck. Um,
I don't know.
but this is pretty tight. So that's I think one of the takeaways here is like, sure, white blue's the best, but it's not even that much better than, the sixth best deck.
Hmm.
So this really is a format where it's about finding your lane and drafting your seat rather than forcing. So that's good. Um,
Yeah. I feel very much like that. Like my in general, I mean, like everyone has their own idea of like what their favorite draft format is or blah 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 blah. But I am really liking Duskmourn, while I did not really like Bloomborough very much. So
oh, that's good to
um,
hear because I didn't play Bloomburrow. So
yeah, there are things to like about Bloomborough, but I think that I just got tired of it and I just felt like I was banging my head against a wall. I know I've said this multiple times, so I'll
yeah.
jump off of that, but I
Okay.
understand that people liked that. But anyway, the next deck. When was the last time this deck was good? Like ever? I cannot
Uh,
remember when you would
it's
ever
a
have wanted to play this deck.
well, we
And
never want to play it.
it's true.
So
But like in general, like it almost feels like every draft format is like, well, this is just it's just a shitty color combination. Like you shouldn't play this. Oh, I guess sorry. I literally say that the last format it was one of the best decks. Okay, sorry.
see, I
Um,
missed that one.
yeah.
But I was gonna come in here and be like, Zach, I think I kind of like Simic in this format. Like, don't hate me,
Don't hate
but
me.
like I drafted a couple of Simic decks. Um, so let's do it in pairs again.
Okay.
So very, very even here is Simic and Gruul.
Hmm.
They're like 0.1% win rates off. So it's really like that's the next tier. The top
Yeah.
tier is Azorius Boros, a solid 1% lower. It gives you the next tier in Simic and Gruul. I personally, if you put a gun to my head, asked me to order these before the show, before seeing 17 Lands, I would have had Gruul at number two, actually. I've
Hmm.
been impressed with the Gruul Delirium beatdown deck. It just feels like it's aggressive enough to, really put you on the back foot, but the cards it plays are also good. So it's like
Very
that
good.
classic, like I'm an aggro deck, but my card quality is high, and that's
The
always a winning formula.
like when we're talking about Boros, like I don't have the demons of Boros in my mind. I don't dream about the curve outs of Boros. I have nightmares of the dream, like the curve outs of
The
Gruul
Gruul
against me,
Delirium curves,
where
yeah.
it's just like Wicker Folk smash your face for like two
Oh,
turns, and then it gets Delirium and keeps coming in, and then they
yeah.
play the
And the
like
3/3 that can attack when they have delirium,
hmm
you're just
and
like,
then
oh
the
boy.
delirium combat trick that gives +1/+0 in first strike or double
Yeah.
strike with the Wicker Folk. I obliterated somebody today with that combo. I was like, build your own Embercleave, die. It was
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it
like
is an Evercleave kind of thing, isn't
really,
it?
really good. Like that is scary. That feels like it's coming out of nowhere and you like can't take hits from it. Um, where for whatever reason I'm just like Boros just doesn't scare me, but Gruul scares me.
Yeah, I agree with that. That would have been like I would have had it at number two. And I would
Mhm.
have been like, it might even be the best. I don't know, but it's the one that scares me the most
Yeah,
for sure.
it's the one I'm like now actively trying to draft. Like
Yeah,
I'm much
it's the
more
one I
interested.
really love drafting as well
Yeah. And
because
so
I
what I
do like being an aggressor in limited. So,
mhm, with like big bodies, you know.
and I just
Anyway,
love delirium. So,
Delirium is super great. Um, but yeah, I do want to say that like green blue manifest red deck with like they're doing the thing they've done this thing before in draft formats where it's like, oh, Simic cares about face down creatures or like creatures like
mhm.
when creatures flip over something happens, you know,
Or
like
like secret
there's some
plans kind of thing.
yeah, it was Secret Plans, which was like really fun in that format. But then they did like the March into the Scene one that was like, oh, when it flips and when battles flip, you get something or whatever, which wasn't good. Um, this one I do really like, and I think there's one card that holds like a lot of weight in this, which is the uncommon, which we should have. I don't know why I didn't read this. Actually, no, exactly. I know exactly why I didn't read this card when we
Simic.
were. It's Simic. Um, like when we were doing the multicolor thing and looking at like, oh, what's the best one? I did not read Oblivious Bookworm just because I'm like, oh, it's a Simic card. It's a 2/3. It has a bunch of words. I don't really care. But ultimately, it just comes down to like, you get to loot every single turn. And then if you
Mhm.
play a Manifest Red creature, you just draw a card. What the fuck is this card? It is like the that's another one of those like, oh my God, my opponent has this.
Yep.
Oh God. Okay, now I have to kill this thing or I have to do something or like you see it like third pick, you're like, ooh, maybe I should play this deck. Um, I just think that that really changed the game for me. I don't know, reading cards is like really important, I guess, but um I don't know why
Yeah.
for whatever reason that had glossed over. But
I didn't read it either, really.
mhm.
I'm still not. Ooh, I'm not.
You don't love it.
I like. Oh, I do. I do.
Hmm.
Is it the best of the golden commons? I think I'm still not totally
Jury's out on that one.
convinced. I mean, if you again put a gun to my
By
head right now, I'm taking Gremlin Tamer.
ah,
Um,
I agree. I think it is kind of between those two, which is funny we didn't pick that at all. We actually picked the Rakdos one. Both of us did. Um,
and maybe I'm biased by seeing the results of 17 lands, but I also think Midnight Mayhem might be better. Um,
really,
but like seeing the that Boros and Azorius are the top decks, maybe my mind is just like those are the best ones. But
I just feel like I see Midnight Mayhem like I've seen it a few times, and it just people cast it and it just doesn't kill me, or like it just doesn't do the thing that the one from MH3 did. And so like it just didn't. I'm like meh. But I know Oblivious Bookworm by itself is just like giving you exactly what you want. It's like filling your graveyard for delirium because you a lot of times these
That's fair.
decks,
It is the one that's best on its own. The other two need you to be doing the thing.
yeah, it's not just like a regular 2/2 that needs enchantments to come into play. And it's not just like I guess three
Not,
one ones, but like
I think that's part of Midnight, why I like Midnight Mayhem. It's just pretty decent on its own,
mhm.
but there are more gremlins than you think there are, I think, and then there's like it can be pretty. It can feel similar to that spell that you're referring
Yeah.
to. It's obviously not as good
The
as that
only
one was, but that was like the best
mhm.
card in that format,
It was
the
so
best
good.
non-rare in that format.
This the times Midnight Mayhem has been like an issue is just like whenever there's the red doors out that like all your attacking creatures get +1/+0.
Yeah.
That has been an issue, but I think
Yeah,
overall
it's a
if
dorky token thing, right? So like
mhm.
if you're doing the token thing, it's very good. And you have some other gremlin tokens already kicking around, then it's like, oh man,
Exactly.
if these are all 2/1s with menace, like and lifelink, like that's messed up.
Yeah. So I just think that the bookworm has sat there and been like the sneaky killer in more games that I've played than other ones. It's very easy to see something that kills you and be like, that card's really good. But obviously, the Oblivious Bookworm is just like the
Okay.
there are important things to kill, and is this one of the things I have to kill right now? It's like I think I have to.
Okay, so I think here's how I'd describe it. The one I want to take is Midnight Mayhem.
Hmm.
The one I actually would take is Gremlin Tamer. And the one I should take is Oblivious Bookworm. And
That
I think
makes
that's how
sense.
you describe these three uncommon.
Yeah, these are that's totally good. Yeah. That like I should probably be just taking this card more. I should be playing blue green more and be less afraid of it. Um
I've
kind
only
of
played it once, and I had Valgavoth's Onslaught and Zimone all
okay,
questioning
well
in my
just
deck.
fuck yourself then. God damn it.
So I was like, I guess I should go. Oh, and I had Dissection Tools. That was a nice deck. It
Dissection
did not
tools.
trophy. It did not
Ouch.
trophy. But yeah.
That's rough.
Alas.
I'm so sorry.
Um,
Did you have a bookworm?
no.
Maybe
I'm
that's why
looking
you
at
didn't
the list
trophy.
now. I was like, pulled it up. I was like, do I have any bookworms in this list? I was like, I did not. I
Yeah.
had Flood Pit's Drowner though,
Okay, that's a good card.
and four Piranha Flies. Oh my God, what
Oh
was this
God,
deck?
what the hell?
This was very early in the format.
Whoa, you're just playing like the what's his face? What is the vampire interloper? Is that what that is? The black one?
Yeah,
It's kind of like that. That's
I
funny.
got some stuff in here though. I got a Centipede, Vanish from Sight, Glimmer Burst. We were doing approximately the correct thing, and we had some bombs. So
Yeah. Well, actually, you just mentioned Glimmer Burst. I just want to say that the like winningest blue common
that's the biggest shocker
is
for me.
Glimmer Burst currently, which is also a huge shocker to me. I keep seeing people play this.
I I 100% had Vanish from Sight as my top blue common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Glimmer Burst wasn't even really on my radar. Like I was like, it's fine, and I usually take it. But best common? I don't know if it was in my top three.
definitely not. A 4 mana 1/1 that draws two cards at instant speed is like those all sound like interesting things, but it doesn't
I would have had Vanish from
do anything.
Sight, Unable to Scream, and it would drop off after that.
Like I picked Tunnel Surveyor from our lists, but like it hasn't really been I haven't
It's been
been obsessed.
surprisingly
Fine.
mediocre.
It's just like it
Yeah.
feels middle of the road. It's kind of up, like its win rate is pretty good, but I just still think it's middle of the road.
Yeah.
Meat Locker has been a card that's been much more frustrating to me when I'm like, okay, am I gonna win next turn? I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Now I might actually. ugh, now I can't
Yeah.
really. I don't have any attacks now, and I go so slow, and then all of a sudden I'm just dead, and they're drawing a bunch of cards. I'm like,
Yeah, I
ugh.
would have had the two like removal spells and then maybe Meat Locker, possibly um possibly Twist Reality.
Anyway, it just was very surprising. The
Glitterburst
blue, like,
surprising.
it's super surprising. Um,
And we talked a lot about how good white is.
mhm,
Unsettling Twins, I wouldn't say it's surprising in the same way, but I think when I initially looked at the set, my mind shortcutted that card to like two 2/2s for 4,
mhm,
which is generally strong and limited, but in today's limited is not crazy. That would have been a really strong card, like, back in my day.
mhm,
But we used to get flyers for that. Like that would be a
mhm,
good card, the 2/2/2 flyers for 4. Um, Tolerant summoning, I think is what
mhm.
that one was called. But so I was kind of like, 2/2/2s for 4 is gonna be fine, but not exciting.
Yeah.
But the Manifest Dread actually makes a huge difference on this, and I'm when I saw it here, it reminded me like, yeah, I've been liking this card more and more and more because my baseline analysis was like, yeah, 2/2/2s for 4, you're fine with it. But now I'm kind of like excited. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting to see it reflected here as the second best white common
Yeah.
and
It
not that far behind Trapped in the Screen.
yeah. Well, it's also really just funny to me because like I knew all those things. I saw the card and I was still like, not exciting.
Eh.
Eh.
Yeah.
And then I haven't really played very much of it because I don't see it very often because people take it pretty highly. And
Yeah.
so I haven't had enough experience with the twins. I like can mentally know it's good, but like for whatever reason, I'm just like, eh. Even though I know I even picked a card that's like has a similar vibe to it, but it's even better than that. But there's something about that 2/3 body, baby. I'm all about them 2/3s these days.
Yeah.
Oof. Like I
I
hate
love the 2/3s.
they're just the ones that I hate to see the most on the opposite side of the battlefield. That I'm like, I really wish I had some 2/3s right now. I'm looking down at my 2/1s. I'm like, damn,
Yep.
2/3s are so good.
That's kind of the red, green, green, blue. Uh,
Chunk.
yeah.
Um, we can move on to the next two pairs, which are both black. So we have black
Hmm.
red and black green. I have the most like firsthand knowledge with black green because that's what I've been.
Same. I've actually played black, red at all.
And I don't play against black red very much, but the times I have, it wrecked me. So
Hmm.
like my opponents had like really good black red decks that were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do all the stuff that you were afraid that we were gonna do, and that's the times I've seen aggressive red cards. Um, and it would just
Yeah, I'm
seem to.
surprised to see this one here because I've had the opposite experience where I play against it and it's like it doesn't do anything.
Mm,
And it's
that's interesting.
okay.
Maybe there's only a couple games that like I actually was affected by, and I just still remember those.
Hmm.
But like I'm looking to be more interested in like playing black red though. I guess as we're talking about this, I don't really want to play black as much anymore because
Yeah.
I have been playing some like green black decks recently and not been super happy with it. Golgari is like it's like Delirium Value Town kind of, but like I'm always sad that I'm not like just playing green red. Or sorry,
Hmm.
yeah, green red. Where I'm like, man, I really wish I was just doing like fast smash their face Delirium and not like making some tokens and like just putting a bunch of stuff in my graveyard. And for whatever reason,
Totally.
I feel like when like you're playing green black, I wish I could just add blue and be soul tie and then I have like more power.
Hmm.
But for whatever reason, I just feel like handicapped when I'm playing straight green black. Like
Yeah,
my
I'm
hands are
with
like
you. Like
tied
I
behind
want to
my
be
back.
I want to be green red or I want to be like green blue and do more
Hmm.
manifest dread stuff. And I haven't really found, like I said, I have very little experience with black red. I just kind of beat it down when my opponents
Hmm.
deign to play it. I think it might be another scenario where it's like you either get the nuts or you get garbage in
Hmm.
black red. Um, and then black green has just felt underwhelming. Like seeing it right in the middle here, that sounds totally right. Like there's nothing wrong with anything that's going on in black green. It's just not as exciting as what some of the other decks
Yeah.
are doing.
And I think this is the time to talk about like the murder problem.
Hmm.
And we outlined a bunch of reasons why murder wasn't really great just because it only destroys things. But as we're coming into like what I was saying before with like my green black decks, wish they had blue. It's really like if they could be simic with like a splash black, that would be nice for some big things or just some like either I'm doing some graveyardy stuff or I'm like reanimating some things or
Yeah,
maybe there's some removal. But the thing with murder also is that like it's double black and you do feel that when you're playing some of these decks. Like when you're playing three colors, it's not always super easy to play a bunch of pips in all the different colors. So,
yeah,
and I will feel the pressure. Like, there's nothing worse than having a murder in your hand, and you're like, well, I have black, I just don't have double black. And
yeah.
you're just waiting for a specific land, and then you just die. So, while the other removal spells in the set don't have that issue, murder does. So,
Yeah, it's the classic like murder in black and limited problem where if black's a weak color, which I think it is the weakest color here, you really don't want to be committing to double black. And so
mhm,
there's this weird like relationship where it's like one of the better black cards is not one you even really want to play because you
mhm,
don't want to commit to black, which makes black weak, which makes murder worse,
mhm.
which like,
Like,
that whole cycle.
remember in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, there was that really good black removal spell that was basically murder. It was like
Mhm.
-5/-5 or -10 -9 or whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing, where you're like, well, if I play this card, I have to play a bunch of black to play this card.
Right. You want like nine swamps at
Hmm.
least. And I don't want to be playing nine swamps.
Yeah, unless you're like mono black and you're playing like the Excruciator and like
Yeah. Yeah.
all the big black pip cards. Um, I don't know if that's
Totally.
a
And black is probably the worst color, but again, this isn't a format that is so polarizing that you should never
play
like
black.
that you
No, no,
should
no.
avoid black entirely. Just bias your picks a little bit. Like early
Hmm.
picks, don't take the black. If there's a fairly similarly powered black or white card, take the
Hmm.
white card, you know?
Yeah. I will say, as we're stopping on this for just a moment, um, that one of the best like rares from the set is the Swarm Weaver, which
Mm.
is a straight Golgari card, and this is one that would be nice to be able to splash. So this is you had picked this card last week for
Yeah.
like
I
this was
like this card.
your half court shot. So it's the Scarecrow that makes like 2/1/1 black green insect creature tokens, and then if you have Delirium, they get +1/+1 and Death Touch. They also have flying, by the way. Um, and this card is a great thing for if you want to like you play it. This is the deck that likes it because you play it, you block with it, you regrow it into your hand, you recast it, you reanimate it, and you're just getting more and more of these insects. Um, I had
Yeah.
somebody the other day who I had killed it, and then in combat they had instant speed reanimated it with like liver die, and then their 1/1 flyers became 2/2 death touch flyers during combat, which was really scary. Um, so yeah, this could be a reason. Like, there's always a reason you could play all of these decks, but like, you have to have that reason. And getting cards like this, like Swarm Weaver, are big reasons why you would be like wanting to make sure you can cast those spells and you can be in this color.
Yeah.
Um,
Now,
so
Swarm Weaver is crazy.
yeah.
I still think it's got to be Valgavoth's Onslaught, though, as like the rare you want, though. Like,
Oh, for sure.
card is nuts.
Of course it's nuts. Sorry, I was trying to think of a card that would push you into Golgari.
Okay, I thought
Valgavoth's
you were saying
Onslaught.
that's like the best rare or something.
No, 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 no. Sorry, sorry. Valgavoth's on like Swarm Weaver is like the fourth winningest rare. Um,
Oh yeah, I guess we could just check that, right?
yeah, Valgavoth's Onslaught is the second, with Overlord of the Mist Moors being first, which
Oh,
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. the overlords are all great, but like the white one is the best for limited because you make
Yeah,
tokens,
the
making
white one's
tokens.
insane.
Like what
Yeah,
is this? Overload of Mistmores, 3 bodies for one piece of cardboard. Valgavoth's Onslaught, almost always 3 bodies for one piece of cardboard. Swarm Weaver, 3 bodies for one piece of cardboard.
yeah,
Like
right.
that's it's the same thing. The other one is like Ghostly Dancers. That's 1 body that makes more bodies. So like just classic
Yeah,
limited stuff. Um, but yeah, don't be as we go into these next archetypes, don't just immediately say, "Oh, I can't ever play this." You need to have the rares basically. A lot of times it's like rares push you into these or amazing uncommons. Um,
yeah,
with the next deck is kind of paired up with another one, as we've been saying this whole time. Um, this is the green white survival deck with at 53.2%, as well as the blue red rooms deck with 53%. So both very
yeah,
close. I'm more surprised that survival was a bit lower. I was thinking it was going to be stronger, but I guess it might just be because there's one specific rare that is annoying, and it's Rip, the the ghost hunter or whatever. I don't actually remember the rest of the card's name,
yeah,
but I don't know if it has a great like percentage or whatever, but it's definitely the like if you're gonna have a survival card that you care about, it's this one that lets you draw your deck. And it just always seems to be like, wow, every your entire game plan is to make sure that this fucking thing survives each combat. And like you
yeah,
keep just drawing more cards and playing a million creatures, and then I'm just dead. Um,
yeah. Blue red rooms. Not surprised to see it here. Even when I thought rooms were going to be, I think, stronger than they ended up being as
mhm,
limited cards. I knew the rooms
mhm.
deck was not going to be where you wanted to be. Like, it's just asking too much of you.
Yeah, well, the blue ones and the red ones don't make creatures, right? Like,
Right. So it's like people are just like dirtling with their rooms over there, and then the payoff isn't powerful enough for
mm-mm,
taking all those turns off. So this, the only surprise with blue red rooms is like I might have had it as the second worst deck, but the bottom three I totally get. Green white is the biggest surprise of this whole thing to me.
mhm,
Green white I thought was a strong deck. Like I'm usually fairly excited to be in green white, and not only is it, fourth worst, but it's a good chunk lower than black green.
mhm.
And so this is something I'm going to have to mentally readjust because I've just happened to have had success with green white and lost to green white a lot. And
Hmm.
my one trophy was a green white deck, although it had the Wandering Emperor, like one
Well,
Eternal Wanderer,
oh, so when you're
bunch of
talking
green
about,
cards.
so when you're talking about people who are using survival cards and not attacking, you're talking about yourself. That's what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah,
that you were the
totally.
one doing this. Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
I thought your opponents were doing this to you. No, no, no,
No,
no.
no, I'm the turn one, the turn one survival card that actually attacks three times guy. So I have like a really inflated estimation of this deck, I guess. But this is the one I got most wrong for sure. I would have had this in the upper half,
Hmm.
definitely, probably above some of these decks that have a much higher win rate. So um, this is where I'm going to be like adjusting in my upcoming drafts. Is like, okay, green white's not that good. Green white's not that good.
Hmm.
Green white's not that good. Like, don't take these survival cards.
Yeah, I think there are a handful of survival cards that are actually good, but I don't think that survival, it's this room thing, right? There are good rooms, but the room deck isn't very good. I think it's
Yeah.
the same thing with this, which is like having a handful of survival cards. There's like, there's one that manifests dread. That's good in any deck. You can just put that.
Hmm.
This is good. Um, but like the fact that both of the like uncommon Celestia and like whatever cards, the uncommon multicolored ones, those are the worst uncommon cards for that chunk. You have Shrewd
Yeah.
Storyteller and Baseball Bat are at the very bottom, which
That
are
doesn't surprise me, actually. Those are some good points you made. The first being that, like, the cards that are good in this deck are just good in those colors and everybody wants them. That's like
Hmm.
a classic limited thing of like, oh, that's why you got hoodwinked into thinking this deck was good, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's because it's just so hard to get the cards you want.
Hmm.
And yeah, the signpost uncommons suck. Yeah, they're the bad ones.
Yeah. Which like they looked, totally fine. I've had decks that were like, yeah, if I can get this to go. I think the baseball bat seems really exciting. Like the attacking and tapping a
Yeah,
creature.
storyteller has always been like to me, but baseball bat I thought would be good.
Yeah. But it just ended up not doing it. I don't know if there's a weird shenanigan. Like it is the kind of deck where you need a multitude of different things where you're like, okay, I need the dude who makes my creature indestructible when I attack, and I also need that centipede thing that like attacks and gives something death touch, so I like disincentivize people from blocking and trading, because then my creature starts to trade up, and then there's like this weird kind of combat chain, but like it all kind of has to go to work together for you to get in a weird storm where that's good. Um,
Yeah,
it
I
just
think
doesn't come
baseball
together.
bat falls into the problem that we've been talking about this whole time of like the way they design survival is not really what they promised. It's not really about attacking and surviving combat and getting
Hmm.
value for doing that. It's more about being like tricky and tapping your guys in other ways and stuff. And that's where baseball bat falls
Because you
flat
can
because
attack and you
the whole point of baseball bat is that, hey, survival is all about combat, and this helps you get stuff into combat when you weren't
mhm.
necessarily going to be able to otherwise. And also, I think I always like underrate this part of it, but like you play baseball bat on turn two so often, and then you don't get to take advantage of that free equip. And so you're in this like really awkward thing where you're like, do I just drop my baseball bat on turn two because I don't have another two drop? Or do I
Oh,
wait and like just not
oh,
cast it and play it
wait.
later?
I don't think I'd ever play baseball bat on two if I don't have a creature.
But you have a
Um,
three drop, right? So it's like,
yeah, but then I later when I play it, like I lose out on like my turn two mana, but equipping it costs three, so then I'd much rather just like wait and equip it for two.
no, but you don't have a two drop. So you can't, if you have a two drop or you expect to draw, like, sure, turn four, two drop plus baseball bat or something.
Yeah,
But if you have a three drop and a four drop and a baseball bat, like, do you play the baseball bat on turn two?
no,
I think I do usually, because I'm going to go three drop, four drop, and then I have no expectation for the turn after that.
yeah, but then I just don't know why I would show my opponent a baseball bat that I'm not going to use when I would rather just hold it in my hand and play it and equip for cheaper because it just costs two instead of three.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends, but there's like,
I get that you're like missing out on like your mana for turn two, but I think I'd rather have a combat where like I'm about to attack in like two mana, I get to play my baseball bat. They weren't expecting this, and now I get to attack and do all my stuff. Um, it just they don't know about it, and it's cheaper.
yeah, I guess that's fair. I'm mostly thinking like when I was playing with baseball bat, I could play against blue a lot, right? So you
Oh, because you don't
do,
want to get it countered.
yeah, you want to like sneak it in and
Gotcha.
then make sure that the baseball bat is actually on the battlefield. Because I'm forgetting the name of the quench card in this set, but like that card's
Sure.
decent. It's played,
Hmm.
and blue is good. So I've had a lot of situations where I'm like just slapping a baseball bat down.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't know we were playing against blue, Jeff.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I was like, why isn't he worried about getting his baseball bat countered?
I was like, I thought we were
In
playing
my head, I'm
against.
always playing against Azorius. Okay.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And in my head, I feel like I'm playing against like Gruul beats or something,
Yeah.
some or amalgamation of something, and I'm for the most part not dealing with counter spells or. But also, I guess if they have the quench, you could just wait till later, and then you have the mana for it. So,
Yeah, but if you wait till later, like usually it's like turn five is a three drop plus baseball bat or whatever, right?
or
That's
you
the
play
reason
baseball
to.
bat first, and
Then
then
they counter your three drop.
then you don't You have your baseball bat though. You don't. You did get
Yeah.
countered. It's great.
Yeah, I guess Quench is gonna get you.
It's just gonna get you sometimes.
Maybe I'm just like stupidly slamming baseball bat on turn two for no reason.
I mean, it's just because you're playing that one drop. Anyway, we don't have to go. That was much more information about baseball bat than I thought, but I do want to again
Anyways,
harp
baseball
on
bat sucks.
blue-red rooms just being not good.
Just
And
bad.
I
Yeah.
I thought this was just going to be the worst. I did I just I was not expecting it to be any higher than dead last. So,
Really. I fully had blue black as dead last.
and
Most
I had a draft that screwed that up for me. So,
Yeah, yeah. I was like, you had your wonky draft with all the
mhm.
rares and stuff. I've never drafted blue black. I do have my Sultai deck, so this sort of counts. I've never drafted it, and I've played against it a lot because in the
Mhm.
early phases, like I think people just liked the idea of it,
I
and they
still do.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, right. I definitely don't blame them. They definitely are overdrafting blue black, right? And people really
Hmm.
like the like Fear of Infinity card.
Oh,
Um,
I do like Fear of
play
Infinity.
against it all the time. And I'm just like, this just it's just not doing it. Like it feels like the reason I think I identified it, this is why that's the worst deck. Because I have a lot of experience with this of a deck that needs everything to like synergize and to come together
Hmm.
in order to accomplish something that is less powerful than what the other decks are just doing
Hmm.
as their baseline.
Yeah.
That's my bread and butter. I build those
Hmm.
constructed decks all the time, man. I know
Hmm.
the signs of like you need these three specific cards, and then you do something that's kind of cool and powerful, but not as good as just like
A five
slamming
drop.
Shieldred.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's like I saw that in this deck immediately, and I was like, resist the temptation to draft that.
Yeah.
But
That's so because like I'm looking back at some of my drafts, and if you don't, the listeners out there, if you don't like have something that tracks your data, we also use Untapped, which is very easy
mm,
to look at. 17 lands is like more numbery, and Untapped is a little bit easier to digest. But I'm looking back at some of my draft decks, and I'm like, yeah, I had a like O3 Demir deck, and I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe that doesn't come together. But then two drafts later, I had it was almost completely Demir, except for I splashed white for the Overlord of the Mistmourers, but
mm.
the rest of the deck was all blue black, and so it felt like a blue black deck splash a bomb,
Yeah,
double splash too. Um,
yeah, it's worth it. That
but
card
that
is
but
that good.
that deck did pretty good. It didn't get me a trophy, but like we got on the gravy train, baby. So like,
How many of
uh,
those wins were from Overlord of the Mistborn?
oh, I can't remember. Probably a good, maybe a
Probably at least half.
an amount. Um, but oh, I right because I was splashing for Overlord of the Mistmoors as well as I was splashing for Rite of the Moth. So then I could like
Oh,
reanimate
nice.
stuff.
Yeah, to reanimate the Overlord.
Mhm. So that was nice. And I this is just a little moment to talk about splashing. I know I think this is a thing. What I want to ask you, what do you think about the land cycling cards in this format?
I am almost always a huge fan of land cycling cards. I think they're the worst I've ever seen them in this format. Like,
That is so interesting.
I just don't tend to take them. Like, I think there's just enough going on, I guess, that these tend to get cut, if that makes sense for me. And I'm like, I know objectively, smoothing, and then you have graveyard matters, but like you're never struggling to get creature in your graveyard for your delirium deck,
It's true.
you know? So I
I
don't know. I've put them lower than I
mhm.
usually do, but I usually treat them as extremely good.
Yeah. I think I still just do. I've been really enjoying like um I always have like one or two in my decks. And a
Hmm.
lot of times they're something that helps me like close out the game.
Yeah.
And they are cards that like with that deck, I could splash, like I can just use the land cycler to help me splash colors. Be like, okay, I just have like the plane cycling one. I'm never planning on casting this card. I just know that it's gonna go get me a planes when I'm in non-green colors. Um, I don't think that that's a really great way to use it.
I think the white one is like white is so good, and that
Yeah,
particular card is so bad, like
it's
relative to the other
it's
ones.
so funny just because I feel like it's the one that like when I don't love seeing it on the other side, just because I'm like fucking huge flyers are so annoying to deal with. But
Yeah, it's big, right? But
I'm trying to recognize that most everyone agrees that the land cyclers in this set are not very good, and I have been
oh,
very
interesting. When you said like interesting, when I said that, I thought it was like I was wrong.
no,
But
no, 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 no. You
okay.
are almost most definitely right, and I'm wrong. But I was wondering if you're on my side, but no. So now maybe
I
I just gotta,
started on your side, man. I
yeah.
started with them really high, and then they just started I just started taking them out of my decks
Mhm,
because I'm like, look, the point if you're always land cycling it, it's not a good card. The
mhm.
point is that you can land cycle it or you can play it as a finisher. That's what makes it a good limited card. And if you're just never doing that, one of those two options, it's no longer a split card.
It's true. I guess like most of the time I have some sort of like reanimation spell or something. And so I'm like, okay, I get to use it early and then I get to bring it back later.
I love how
And
most of your decks have a reanimation spell in them.
most of the time, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great soundbite.
Um,
Just always playing Reanimator in limited.
I mean, because there's a common white one, like
But I think in this set in particular, with a graveyard themed set, my instinct coming in was like, this is going to go great in a graveyard themed set. I think coming out of playing it is like, because it's a graveyard themed set, there's so many enablers. This doesn't really help Delirium like you might think, because getting creatures in your graveyard is the easiest card type to get in your graveyard in limited. It doesn't super help Reanimator because there's so many ways to mill that you just don't need to do it this way. Like
mhm.
you can get a big boy in your yard any number of ways. And so you're really just playing it on the basis of this is a, card that helps me early and card that helps me late, which they still do that, but I think the
Mhm.
cards like the creatures are weak enough. And the format is like I would say the format is fast, but not in the sense that games end early, in the sense that you need to be committing to the board early or you fall behind
Yeah.
quickly.
But that also just feels like what Magic is now.
Yeah, that's just what
Yeah.
limited is these days. You're
I
right.
just but so when I think of fast, I'm like I'm not dying as fast as I was in Bloomborough or like
Right.
or Murders at Karlov Manor, right? I'm not like just dead.
Yeah.
Which is probably why unless I'm playing against green red,
Yeah.
like Gruul will do that. Um but yeah, okay, so I do think I need to readjust how I'm viewing the planes cyclers and that I should be thinking of them as like uh backup big boys for my decks. Like they're not
Yeah.
the main big boy, they're just the backup in case the main big boy fails.
Yeah, I think there's also, you were even mentioning it's relatively easy to splash in this set. I think the land
Hmm.
fixing is even weaker than it usually is. So, like the mana smoothing, because I think this set is you're not generally that worried about your mana either. So
Hmm.
they've like plummeted in
I
different
think they've like
corners. They used to
weirdly.
be like a solid, I don't know what to take here. I'm in green. Sure. Take
Mhm.
the branch snapper or whatever that thing is called.
Is
And
that
now
well,
I'm
like
like,
that's the
yeah,
biggest
branch
one, so
snapper. Fuck that one. My card sucks. So
I there's like something that there's like a feeling that feels really good though if you're like turn two land cycle this turn three like in the weird delirium decks that I'm getting it's just like I have under the skin in my opening hand and I'm like how long do I hold under the skin, which
Yeah.
manifests and then you take something from your graveyard. So it's like if
Yeah.
I like land cycle on turn two,
Is
get a
Under the
land.
Skin good, by the way? I've been taking it like it's quite good.
I think it's
Um,
great. I think
yeah.
so. I really like it.
Okay.
Because then you get to manifest red, and then if you don't manifest something in your graveyard that you want, like a land or something, or like whatever else you needed with under the skin, you can just take the land cycler back into your hand, and then you're getting pretty close to just playing it. So that just is a scenario that feels good, but I don't know if it
Yeah.
is actually good. Do you know what I mean? Like there are
Sure.
plays that you make where you're like, oh, that felt really good, but I I don't think that that was correct, and I shouldn't have done that, but it felt really good. Um,
And you get into these awkward situations where you like land cycle it to enable that
mhm,
and then hit something you want to take with the Under the Skin.
mhm.
And then it's like, well, I wouldn't have land cycled it if I knew I was going to hit something I actually wanted.
I guess, but if you're thinking of it as a backup big boy and you get a real big boy, then you're like, great, that's fine, no
You're
problem.
very all in on the reanimate mediocre creatures plan, and I think that
Oh,
might be part of that might be part of the problem.
oh, buddy, it's so much fun though.
There are like a lot of really good creatures to reanimate if you want to do the reanimator thing.
It's a
And
backup though, just in case the other one's gone.
I don't think Reanimator's that good in this format. So that might be the
That's true.
problem. The
And
whole
maybe
like I'm
that's
gonna
it.
play Reanimator and reanimate mediocre things.
Yeah. I don't know. Reanimating a 4/5 flyer. This is pretty good.
Yeah. Is it? On like turn five, it's just like I played an air
Yeah.
elemental.
I also gained three
I jumped
life.
through a lot of hoops to play an air
Air elemental.
elemental.
Hey, that card's a classic for a reason, you know.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, air elemental is a good card, but a lot of that is because it's one card.
Well, this one is two, and I get a land, so it's really I get a card
And
back.
plus one toughness, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. It's 4/5.
Whatever, Jeff. I get it. All right, stop playing Reanimator. I understand. It's just so hard.
That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm
Oh
saying
my God.
reanimate better
Wait,
stuff.
wait, Jeff. Okay, I have to talk about something before we get to the end of this podcast because I forgot this happened and I wasn't able to talk to you about it.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited now.
All right. If you think I'm a shitty reanimator player, listen to my opponent. Okay. Um,
Where is this going? Okay. I'm
I,
into this.
I can't really remember which deck I was playing, but my opponent, I'm on the play my land, pass the turn. My opponent like ropes for a little bit, says oops, and then just goes to discard phase without playing a land.
Oh,
And they discard
Bristlebrand.
Valgavoth.
Oh,
Yeah, so Grizzlebrand basically.
yeah.
We go through the turns and it's just like, and then they just start playing the game like normal. Like, oh,
Yeah.
whoops, I just forgot. I went to my end, like
Oh,
end
oh,
phase.
oh.
I
Yeah,
forgot
I've
to
done
play
that
my
in Cube
land.
Draft with
Hmm.
Bristlebrand
Hmm.
plenty of times. But usually
Um,
you win on turn two if you do that.
and so then we went through the normal things and they played like whatever the black 1/1, the Valgavoth's Faithful or whatever, and you can pay for,
Oh yeah.
sacrifice it, return a creature from graveyard to the battlefield. So they do that on like turn. It's their turn five, but my turn six basically because they skipped a turn, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they get Valgavoth out, but like the whole time I've just been smashing their face because they haven't been doing anything else.
Of
And then
course. Yeah.
I have enough creatures out that I can just like immediately kill the Valgavoth. Like I think I exile the Valgavoth and sacrifice enough things that I can target it, and then I just keep attacking them. And then
Yeah.
they're able to play a couple more things to make it kind of interesting. But in the end, it's just like I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should skip your first turn to discard your big bad guy to reanimate.
It's not a traditional limited move. It's a like vintage cube draft move.
Hmm.
It's not even a constructed move. Like
No,
it's a vintage cube draft move.
it's just not what you want to be doing in this format. You just can't reanimate it fast enough. Like it just.
And like it's not it doesn't have hexproof, right? Like they
Mm-mm.
just kill it.
I mean,
So you
it has ward like sacrifice three non-land permanents, but like you can still by the it how
It's not that hard to do in this format,
in the
actually.
amount of time it takes for you to actually play out
And
the
it's
game.
super obvious it's
Yeah,
coming. So
because
like I'm setting up my non-land
mhm,
permanents, man. Like
like
I'm
anyway,
holding my removal.
it was just like
I I'm still on your opponent's side though. That's sweet.
I mean, it was sweet. Like if I had
It's
lost,
not
I
the
would have
correct play, but it's
yes.
sweet.
If I had lost, I would have been like, wow, that was sweet. I don't think they should have done that, but that was sweet. But
Yeah.
now that I won, I'm like, wow, that was really stupid of them. They should never do that. Why would they ever do
What a
that?
what a fool.
What an idiot. Um,
I could totally see you trying to that on stream. If you had a reanimator deck with Valgavoth and it's in your opener and you're like, do
no,
we
no, no,
do
no,
it?
no, no, no. What we do in my stream, if you ever want to see it, is not good. Is play that stupid 4 mana 3/4 reach centipede that you can either pay to or discard a card to blow up a room, and just discard it for no reason and not blow up a room because there's no rooms. That would be what I would do.
Wow, I hate that.
It's like the worst green common. That's what we would play.
I was gonna say it's like you do the same thing where you skip your land to go to discard, but you discard Slavering Branch Snapper.
Yeah. Oh God. Anyway, Jeff, let's try to wrap up this episode.
Yeah, blue black and white black suck.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
the last two.
white black reanimator. We just talked
Yeah,
about it, I
Reanimator
guess.
sucks. As much as we all want it to be good, it's not.
It only because black isn't good, right? That's why. It's not because reanimator isn't good, but it's just because black isn't good. I don't know.
Okay.
Liver die when you get liver died when you attack somebody, it sucks.
Yeah. Um, it's never happened to me. But
Okay. Instant
I think
speed
it
reanimator is so annoying.
I think it's telling that white, in my opinion, is the strongest color by a healthy amount. Even white can't make this deck not suck. So
It's true. I also think that, there are, like we said, a bunch of really good black cards that are just super black. Meat
yeah.
Hook Massacre 2, super black. Obviously, Murder, Valgavoth, super black.
Mhm.
Like, there are so many huge black pip demon monster things that, like, you have to be playing black to play, unless you reanimate them. Um, but you need black to reanimate most of the time.
And I think the reanimate spells are even pretty black.
Most of them are
Like
very black.
Rite of the Moth is double black. So
The first time you play it, the second time it's double white. So
okay, true.
if you
Yeah.
can discard it
Yeah.
somehow,
If you're doing
then
the Unburial Rites
mhm.
thing, then you're just reanimating for 6 mana for a single black.
But if it's one of those land cyclers, it's pretty worth it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You get a 4/5 flyer.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess moral of the story is white blue enchantment's good, white black enchantment's bad.
Yeah, it's the same story that's always told is like the deck that just has the card quality and the synergy is the best deck. And then
Hmm.
as you scale down, like red white, I think it's just pure card quality is why it's up there. Green, blue, red, green being the next tier is like, I've been thinking about this since we talked about it. I think the cards are all good and the game plan is good, but it's easier to interact with.
Hmm.
It's hard to interact with the white blue Eerie deck in a way that messes up their game plan. It's easier to interact with the red green Delirium deck with like
Hmm.
Graveyard Hate and stuff. So
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the
that's
difference
probably
maker.
it.
But again, we're talking like a 1% win rate difference here.
Difference.
So like both decks are quite strong. The big jump is from black green to green white, from like that
Hmm.
medium deck down to the bad decks. The bad decks are quite bad.
Hmm.
The good decks are a bit better than the average decks, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the format we're in.
So as we like to tell you, stay away from green white survival, is it rooms, Azorius reanimate, Eerie, and then blue black just all together.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really sweet
Yeah.
lifelink deck.
You
But
need the decks are playable, but you need a reason to be in them.
you need a really big reason to be in. Like the lower the percentage, the more reason you need. So
And for me personally, I'm quite sure that I will never ever play blue-red rooms the
mhm.
entire time that I draft this format
I
because
played it once and it wasn't fun. It was
yeah,
like it wasn't even. It was just bad. It wasn't even fun to play. It was just
that's the
like
thing. To me, it doesn't seem fun, and now have confirmed that it's bad. So I'm like, I'm
mhm.
just never gonna play that deck. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I guess the only reason you would really play blue black, like really be stoked on it, is if you were like my opponent from the other day who was playing blue black splash white, which is classic, but it's just like, Kaito
mm,
into uh Overlord of the blue
yeah,
whatevers
yeah.
into after I deal with both of those, Overlord of the Mist Moors, the white one. I'm just like, you have got to be fucking kidding me that you have two Overlords and a Planeswalker in your deck. Like I don't get really mad about like that
I think I
stuff
played
very
against
often.
that person in standard.
Yeah. Oh God, it was. I was. I usually don't get tilted, but that was really frustrating. I was like, you.
So on that note, let's end our discussion of this limited format with a question. Is
Mhm.
this a Prince or a Pauper format?
It's a Prince, like
Yeah, the rares
through
are
and through. Yeah, it's
the
like
rares are really fucking good in this
rares
format.
are busted. Like,
Although I will say, fighting the good fight for the non-rares in this set is fucking sheltered by ghosts. The first time that got played against me, I was like, "Excuse me? This gives their creature protection, exiles one of my creatures, and buffs their
and
guy, and it's
and
2 fucking mana,
it also gives lifelink.
and it gives it lifelink, right? Like
Mhm.
it gives like +2, or is it just
It
plus
gives
one?
+1
+1 and
lifelink.
lifelink.
Ward 2.
War 2 is what it was, and
Hmm.
exiles my thing for 2 mana. An outrageous card. And so like I
So
I
good.
locked that artwork in, and anytime I
Hmm.
see that, I'm like, sheltered by ghosts. That
Yeah.
card is stupid good.
It's stupid good. Like there was a period of time where like there is the thing of like, ugh, if they kill my creature, they get their creature back. That's not a great O-ring thing, but by that time you've
Ward
done
2 goes a
so
long
much.
way.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. I think in my head I was like, yeah, aura, whatever. And I was like, yeah, nah, I don't have time to read all these cards. It's an aura. I'm not taking it. And then someone played against me. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like,
In
how am I
the
ever supposed to beat that?
that enduring tenacity deck I was trying to build, like the pack one pick one tenacity, pack one pick two was the shelter by ghosts. And I was
Yeah.
like, come on. And I had to cut it from my deck because I couldn't get enough white cards.
Oh, bummer.
Which is such a
So
bummer, but
it's a Prince format with a shout out to Sheltered by Ghosts for probably, I haven't pulled up the overall stats, but it's got to be up there with some of these rares because, like, ridiculous. It feels like a rare.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's got a 62% win rate, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, it's right above Zimone, actually. That's
Oh, it's
crazy.
about, okay. Yeah. Simone was pretty good when I had her, but I could see that.
Um, anyway, oof, we talked about stuff and it was good.
Yes. Hopefully, there were some takeaways from
There
our.
always are of some kind. Anyway, Jeff, let's go to last call. Let's talk about this beer we were drinking this evening.
Hmm.
Um, As always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. It's just a fun way to rate beers and have a good time. Anyway, so that is why. Wait, what? Anyway, I'm going to talk about the rating system now. I lost my train of thought halfway through that. But I don't want you to feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible, they taste bad, and you can't even drink them.
Silver is boring. These are macro brews, or just basically micro brews that aren't interesting.
Gold beers are fine, but you probably won't drink them again.
Platinum is solid, and you would drink them again.
Diamond is exceptional. You like these a lot, and you show them to your friends.
And Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are the Overlord of the Mistmoors
Mm,
of the beer world.
nice. All right, so we have creme caramel.
Yes,
You got to talk about.
the really clunky pun. Um,
Hmm.
you know what? I'll let you go first on this
Okay.
one.
Um, I actually was not a huge fan of this one. This one, like, it didn't really taste like a red ale. There were like cream-ish notes, but there's almost like some, like mine tasted kind of like almost sour-y. It
Mm,
had like some of those notes in it,
yeah.
and overall it seemed a little bit of just a lot of things happening that weren't what I was hoping they were going to be. Um, so yeah, I'm not a fan of this one.
All right, I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I had tried this one at the brewery, and so part of my plan for introducing all of this to you is to give you the Leo's Lager, the one the
Hmm.
kid designed first, which was quite good. I did not like this one when I tried it.
Okay.
And I was like, ooh, that's going to be interesting because we typically love red ales on the
Hmm.
show. So let me bring this one. But it was also like the reason I don't like it mostly is that I think it's way too sweet. And
Interesting.
I know that you are a little more tolerant of sweetness in your beers than I
Hmm.
am. So I was
Yeah.
like, let's see if Zach likes it. Um, so I brought it, and it's just going to show you there's a little bit of a roller coaster ride we're going on with this brewery. Well,
Interesting.
I think this beer is generally well made. Like
Yeah, I
it
think.
has that like, body and
Mhm.
it looked good. But for me it's too sweet, man. It's
Yeah, that's so
yeah.
interesting. I feel like I didn't super get sweetness. I just have like there's a relative funk in it that like
Yeah. I'm not getting a
um,
ton of that funk. For me, it's coming
interesting.
through as sweetness for whatever reason.
And so that's why I'm worried. I'm wondering, like, I don't want it to be. It's because the can is all the same color of all of them, and I
Yeah.
want to be like, you are packaged correctly, but the
Right.
beer is not making me feel like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I liked the other one so much that I still have confidence in their abilities because I the lager was very good. So um, I will give this gold. I don't like it
Yeah.
very much,
This one's gold
but
for sure.
uh,
Because it's
but yeah,
not boring. Like it's not like they didn't do anything with this. This
it's
is
true.
interesting. Like they tried something here. It's just
I
not what
don't
I'm looking for.
hate it so much that I'll tell you to not drink it, which is usually silver or bronze.
Yeah. I just
For
won't personally ever buy this one again.
no, I'm going to forget about this one probably. And when I think of this brewery, I will think about the lager that we had that was great.
Yeah. Or one of the beers coming up.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to find out. And so will you find out in the future.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jeff, let's go to closing time.
Let's do it.
As always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You may also find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. If you do see us, give us a hello.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That's Zeulberg on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on our Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff on the Discord. We talk about deck lists, we talk about draft, we post our trophy wins. It's a lot of fun. Come hang out. The link for that is in the show notes.
Mhm. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there as well. Go to YouTube and tell us all the things that we said incorrectly on our podcast. We really appreciate all those things because we want to
Yep.
be the best we could possibly be.
Yeah. I wanna be the very best.
Dun, dun, dun.
No one ever was.
Bum, 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 bum. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you, but mostly just reminding me, Celestia is not good in this format. Stop drafting it.
Good night. right, that's fine.